All right, Tammy Darty here. This is part 5 of 5 Influencers, what they really want and how to get unstuck. I'm really excited. This last session is the close. It's about how do you overcome resistance? What are those behaviors? And then how do you identify them as well? And last but not least, probably the most important thing is how to build trust. Because everyone has heard of Stephen Covey's The Speed of Trust. And if anyone has ever been on a team where you fully trusted one another and the participants, the stakeholders, the influencers, you worked so fast. I know I have. There have been a few and far between of those type of projects, but when they happen, you are working so fast and you are creating something amazing. So that last session is about building trust. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed the whole series if you've been able to watch it or just parts of it. I would love your feedback on how to make it better, what things you have questions about. I'll do my best to answer those in the comments. And again, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a good one.
So we talked a little bit about earlier this grid. Remember, the top right is where your influencers are. Your top left here, the vocal detractor, they're influencers too. And the behaviors that we see with resistance from the vocal detractors is critical because they could be influencing negatively things, and you want them to be positive influencers for the changes that you're trying to bring or lead or drive. So they're very vocal about their lack of support, which is not good and not helpful. They exaggerate everything that goes wrong. And let's be honest, if you want to find something that's wrong with a process, a project, a person, you're always going to find it because nothing's perfect. But they exaggerate those. And they actively work to influence peers to support their negative perspective of it and their attitude. So you really want to think through resistance, and if you have influencers who are negatively impacting you, that is where you have to do something. And we'll talk about that. There's silent detractors too. They can be a little bit more challenging because you don't know they're there, but they are something that you have to be aware of. And I would say with this course that we're talking about today, it's really about your influencers. So we're focused up on that top left quadrant. All right, so we see all these types of resistance. We're like, what do you do about it, right? We're focused on the top left quadrant, right? The vocal influencers. Because our goal really is to either turn them to positive or kind of diffuse their negativity around what you're trying to accomplish. Because there's always change happening, right? Whether you're a small business owner, a medium-sized business, a large corporation, things are changing so fast today that you're always trying to influence change in some way, no matter who you are. So how do we overcome resistance? Well, there's a proactive way to do it, to get ahead of it, and there is a reactive way to manage it when it's happening. So we talked about early on how people need to feel like they understand what's going on so that they can support something. So if you engage your senior leaders actively in the beginning to become advocates of what it is you're trying to do, that's really a good way to be proactive about it. So some of these senior leaders are influencers and some of them aren't. But if you engage them, the ones that will have an impact, the ones that will be impacted by whatever change you're trying to drive, they will be a big reason why you can be successful. So that's the first thing, is engage them early, give them an armful of information that helps them understand what the benefits are so that they can share it with others, and make it their job to share it with others if you can. Because they're going to influence other people in a positive way, and so that is where your influencers can help you get unstuck. Recruit the support of middle managers and frontline supervisors as advocates too of what you're trying to accomplish, because they will also influence others, and they will influence the masses and the frontline worker, where the change has to probably occur. So be aware that proactively you can influence the outcome of whatever change you're doing and driving just by engaging your senior leaders. Some of them are influencers and some aren't. Focus on your influencers. Recruit the support of middle managers down the pike, because they will have some influencing ability also to influence the outcome so that the change you are driving gets completed. And last, communicate the need for change, impact on employees, and the benefits. So whatever you're talking to them about, it has to be about what's in it for me, what's in it for the business. You have to give them those benefits for themselves, because the buy-in, remember, inspirational, influential, influencing by inspiration, you're connecting to people's values, beliefs, their system, the system of how they function, right, to what you're doing. The benefits can draw back to that, as well as be very tactical too. So think about how you pull all that together. Now, once you've done as much proactive work as you can to influence in a positive way and overcome resistance, the vocal detractors, the top left quadrant, the influencers who are very vocal about and negative about something that you're working to do, you're probably going to have to go to the reactive mode, which is an individual level. So you're dealing with, individuals now who are proactively negative about what it is you're trying to work through. So getting underneath what they really want, having that conversation. We talked about the stakeholder interview earlier. You can use those questions to kind of get underneath that, but you have to talk to them, and you can't avoid that. That has to happen. And a lot of times it's simple things that get in the way of these type of relationships. So I was in a couple circumstances where language that was being used was misunderstood or misinterpreted. And so the language that was being used to describe the project or the change and how it would affect a specific team, simply language, a misunderstanding. Well, when you said this, I thought you meant this. Oh my gosh, no, we meant something totally different. Like, that happens so much. It's pretty crazy. So that's kind of nice when you're talking, to someone individually, getting underneath, asking those questions earlier that we talked about. Uncover mismatched priorities. That will happen during an exchange, and how to find common ground. And so once you can do this, you will be surprised at how you can overcome resistance and become someone will be a vocal supporter all of a sudden if you can clarify some of these things. So that's really the big thing about resistance, I would say, and identify win-win scenarios together as well. Oh, come to the table willing to negotiate. I forgot the last one. That is probably the most important, is coming to the table willing to negotiate. So if someone's really struggling with something, then you really have to be okay. What is it that you can negotiate on? What is it can you give up so that they will be able to come around and move forward with you? Very important skill set. All right, last but not least is trust. The one thing that changes everything. You got to love Stephen Covey, the master on the trust factor. So what is trust? Let's get to, I love definitions. It's assured reliance on the character, ability, strength, or truth of someone or something. One in which confidence is placed. Have you ever been in a situation where you thought that you were doing a great job building a relationship, and then you do one thing that you just feel like you blew it completely? And it's happened to me. I think it's happened to every one of us. I know it has. And that dreaded moment comes, you've been told, like, oh, I'm telling you this information, but don't say anything. You got to do this, and as a leader, I was always getting information all the time about things that I couldn't talk about. And sometimes I could talk about it to some people and not to others. And then you have a really, really bad day and you've got 50 people asking you for 50 things, and just something slips out of your mouth and you're like, oh, shoot, I can't believe I just said that. And you just, all of a sudden you recoil in horror thinking, oh my gosh, I've broken a trust. Have you ever done that? Have you ever gone through that? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But the truth is that we've all broken trust with someone. It's happened. Most of the time, it is accidental. Once in a great while, you hear people doing it on purpose, which is never good. But I'm here to tell you that you can always come back from that. Everyone has broken trust before. But I know you can always rebuild trust. And it takes work. And it takes a lot of extra work. But you can build trust. So let's talk briefly here about how you get started building trust. So I love, there's a simple formula, and keep it simple, right, sweetheart? So we start from this place with trust, is that you must be an empathetic person. You must be concerned about other people first. and not just the outcomes. So you got to care about them. So you've really got to start there, because people know right away if you care about them or not. You must create safety as well, because safety is critical. Safety is, if you want someone to be honest with you and talk to you about something, you have to create a safe place where you don't react in a negative or harsh way, no matter what is said. So that is critical. If people feel safe, they will share. And last, when you're speaking, say what you mean and mean what you say. Don't try to create a double talk or, you should know what I mean. It's like, no, say it how you feel it. Say what you mean, and be direct. So those are the places you want to start with. Then you do this, and this is the great simple formula, and this is a Stephen Covey formula, and it's just so easy and so simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. 1, declare your intent, the what and the why. So go in, you want to make sure that you declare your intent. So the why can change everything. I want to build a relationship with you. I want to rebuild this relationship with you. This is what I want to do, and I want to make sure you are kept informed along the journey of whatever it is we're doing. Next, tell them what you're going to do. So what I'd like to do is I want to meet with you, if you're amenable to this, on a bi-weekly basis. I want to keep you up to date on X, Y, and Z, let's go to lunch and let's have a conversation and talk about X, Y, and Z. So remember, building trust with influencers, you are wanting to get them excited about something, get them sharing what the good things are about something that you're working on. And those influencers, as you're building trust, you're telling them, let's meet regularly. Let's talk about what's going on. I'll keep you informed, and I'll do my best so that you are not surprised by any information. In order to do that, I'd like to meet with you bi-weekly. So then you tell them what you're going to do. Last, you simply do what you said. You meet with them bi-weekly. You keep them abreast of information that you feel that they need to know, that they'd want to know. And that's really kind of what it boils down to. Trust is pretty impactful. It's foundational to everything. So today we talked about quite a bit. We talked about stakeholders. We talked about those who are influential that have a high interest in what you're doing. We talked about questions that you can ask that would help you get unstuck, understanding what people are stuck on, whether it's your project or your business or your small business that you're doing. We also talked about how to spot resistance. We talked about how to influence those influencers. What are some of the key tactics we can take, and some ideas of the most powerful influencing skills that there are. And then we briefly talked about trust and a simple formula to get started, and to realize that trust takes time and you can mess it up, but you can always recover. I always like to close out with a thought that people don't accept the change of new ideas that is thrust upon them all at once. There is this bit of an incubation period where you constantly have to care for that new idea. You have to influence others. You have to give people an appetite and the resilience to be able to take on those ideas and get excited about them. So I hope you enjoyed this class. I hope that whether you are well known in your area of what you do and you're influential, or you're working on influencing skills, I believe that you can do it. And I believe that it's powerful stuff to be able to influence others and to be successful in that. I'm Tammy Daugherty. Thank you for joining me.